Welcome back, dear viewers, and you are still watching The Breakfast Show. And in this segment of our program, we will talk about Nile tourism. And today we are joined by Dr. Yehya Abdul Qader. He is a tourism expert. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Shireen. How are you?
Good. So, Dr. Yehya, can you please first elaborate on the importance of Nile tourism in Egypt to the tourism industry?
Well, actually, like cruising the Nile, like has been there for thousands of years. We remember the romantic voyage of Antony and Cleopatra, like this is nearly 2,000 years ago. It was, on the cruising all the way from Memphis up to Thebes, like ancient Thebes, which is Luxor and Aswan. And after that, during, like the 16th, 17th centuries, like international visitors would come from Europe because it is so freezing in the winter and spend 4 months in Upper Egypt. And throughout this time, they take night cruises, like by the time they were called, like the Yehya, which was a small, like boats, like fueled by the fair wind, like. So that was the practice until we came up to the steamers. And since the 70s, there was around 5 or 6 cruises on the Nile. Now, after 70 years, there are over 300 Nile cruises, like that travel all the way from Cairo or from Minya up to Luxor and Aswan, and then continue the cruise to the Abu Simbel temple behind the net.
So, Dr. Yehya, can you tell me more about the most famous destinations that overlook the River Nile and attract tourists the most, and why?
Well, the current, like cruises, like we have luxury ones, we have, like affordable ones, and we have budget ones, and then we have the Yehya, which was like it doesn't have a motor, like it's fueled and propelled by the wind. So these 300 cruises, like they attract thousands of visitors worldwide, and there are at least, like 20 pharaonic temples, and some which belong to the Ptolemy's times, overlooking the Niles, like in the famous Luxor temple, which is dedicated to Amun-Ra, and the Karnak, like 2,000 years ago was, like overlooking the Nile. But now there's like a change in its course. In Komombo, we have an excellent temple, which is Pharaonic Greco-Roman as well, which is dedicated to Sobek, the crocodile god of that time. And you will find, like medical instruments carved, like in its walls. And there is the Philae temple in Aswan, which is dedicated to goddess Isis. In Abu Simbel, like we have a great temple of Ramesses II, and another one dedicated to his wife Nefertari. In Isna, we have a temple dedicated to Khnum, like the creator of mankind. In Kalabsha, there is Horus or Mandulis, which is a Greco-Roman one. In Beit el-Wadi, there is Ramesses II temple. And in Elephantine, we have another temple dedicated to Khnum, the ship, like headed god, which is dedicated to creation. And in Beit el-Wadi, we have another temple dedicated to Ramesses II, the great pharaoh who ruled over 60 years. So this is just like a sample of the great temples and sanctuaries, which is designed and constructed and erected on both, like banks of the Nile.
So, Dr. Yehya, what are the main characteristics of Nile tourism here in Egypt?
Well, like as most historians and, like heritage scholars, like we know that the ancient civilization was all over Egypt, but, like Luxor or ancient Thebes was the sanctuary, and it was the religious, like shrine by the time, and at one point there was like 80,000 priests, like following and preserving the rituals, like in Luxor temple and Al-Karnak temple as well. So that's why visitors would like to love, like to come to visit Luxor, current day Luxor, and cross, like the west bank of the Nile and visit the Valley of the Kings and Valley of the Queens. And then all over, like from the Delta, from Memphis, from Saqqara and the Gizeh Acropolis, we go south, like to Fayoum, to Armenia and Bani Suef, and then up, like Asyut and Sohag. There are temples all over the way, and then they extend even behind the dam in Nubia, and then extend all the way to northern Sudan, the Nubian civilization as well. So there are plenty for historians, like for archaeologists, for Egyptologists throughout times. They were visiting the temple and looking at the contents of the tombs, like we have the King Tut tomb on the west bank of the Nile in the Valley of the Kings. So there's lots of attractions and treasures, historical ones that visitors love to go and visit year-round, but especially the high season typically was like the winter season.
Dr. Yehya, how does the presence of fast trips by small boats called Nile Felucca trips as well as cruises on the Nile River by ship encourage tourists to enjoy the experience of this unique type of entertainment in the Great Nile River, and what type of tourist is attracted to Nile tourism?
Well, really, there is a great range of visitors, like as I said, there is like budget, like priced cruises, affordable, expensive, and luxury. And the smaller ones, like the Feluccas and the Dahabiyas, are very expensive because it takes longer time and depends upon the direction of the wind. And sometimes if there's no wind, they use tugboats to continue the tour.
Yes.
And the cruise, like in the Nile. So it's very attractive and very romantic. And many airlines, they have charters. For example, they fly like from Madrid, like in Barcelona, directly to Luxor. They fly from Milano. They fly from Germany. They fly from Zurich, from Switzerland. So most European capitals, they have direct flights and access to Luxor, or go on a cruise, short one, which is 4 nights, and a long one, which is 7 nights, 8 days. And there are more, could be like 9 nights, like when you go to Abu Simbel and visit, like the Nefertari and Ramesses II temples erected over there.
Sir, we need to learn more about the most common activities presented by Nile cruises to tourists.
Well, when travelers, like they take the wagon lit, which is, like the cars, like sleeping cars, you can go all the way from Cairo up to Luxor or Aswan. So when you land in Luxor or Aswan, you start, like visiting, doing the sightseeing through embarking on one of the 4 types of cruises I already mentioned. And they start making visitations every day, like they land on the east side or the bank side of the Nile and visit Esna and Edfu and Komombo, and then until they reach Aswan. And then Aswan, they take a flight or take a coach and go up to visit the Abu Simbel temple, and maybe, like in Beit al-Wadi or Wadi Subu or Kalabsha, they can have more sightseeing and excursions. So it takes minimum of like 1 night to cover, like some of the great attractions and historical sites of Pharaonic and Greco-Roman civilization in Upper Egypt.
So, sir, the holy month of Ramadan is to start in days. How did tourism sector prepare for that high season, which coincides with winter and spring seasons?
Well, we are fortunate, like to have this beautiful and mild weather, and month of Ramadan, like is very vivid and active and exhilarating. So thousands of visitors, like worldwide and from the GCC and other countries, they love to come and spend like 10 days in Egypt. Like after mid-Ramadan, they can do this. And the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, like they launch promotional campaigns, and hotels, like they get decorated and they offer the meals, like of iftar and suhoor. It became so popular, This didn't exist until like the mid-80s, They were not celebrating Ramadan for the Egyptian hotel, but now it became an international trend. And it's a great opportunity for visitors to come to Egypt and go to Old Cairo, Al Hussein, Al Azhar area, and like after iftar times and the prayers, they go and enjoy, like the tours and the companies, and have suhoor, and do the prayers, like at the ancient and antique mosques that we have downtown Cairo, which dates back to 700 years ago. So really, it's a great time for visitors and European visitors as well, and international ones. Some of them, when I was, like a tourist counselor in New York, they avoiding visiting Egypt throughout Ramadan because they think that everything is shut down and locked up. But I told them this is the best time of the year because you can make more tours, and like the city will be quieter during the time. And some of them, they were joining Mawa'id al-Rahman, like the free meals that we serve liberally, like in the streets and all the quarters of Cairo.
Sir, also Sharm el-Sheikh won the award for the safest tourist destination to visit in the world, and this was in a recent survey. So can you tell us more about this evaluation, and how did Sharm el-Sheikh meet this criteria?
Well, actually, last week, Governor Khalid Fawda, Governor of Sharm el-Sheikh, is like a veteran, and they like a caretaker for tourism and promoting this excellent location in Egypt, Sharm el-Sheikh Resort. And it has been selected by international circles and group advisors as one of the top destinations that enjoys, like safe and secure tourism. And this is one of the really great evaluation for any resort worldwide. And this shows, like the care and dedication that Egypt, focuses on developing its resorts and its facilities to be hospitable and accommodating to its guests. So that's why Governor Khalid Fawda received this award and citation. And there are other destinations as well in Egypt that received such notifications. For example, last week we're celebrating the ACI, the International Airport Convention here in Egypt, like for Africa and for the whole world. And this is a great event as well.
So, sir, also, to what extent this award will reflect on the demographics of visitors, and will it open new markets for Egyptian tourism?
Well, definitely, because now, the whole information about tourist destinations worldwide is accessible through the social media, through the professional sites, like TripAdvisor, Booking.com. There are continuous reviews of all destinations worldwide. So travelers nowadays, they can call their friends or watch the reviews, and then make up their mind about a destination. And receiving this citation for Egypt, an award to the governor and the governorate of Sharm el-Sheikh, is an excellent award, and that will remind visitors that it's a safe and beautiful and hospitable place as well.
Yes, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Yehya Abdul Qader, tourism expert. Thank you, sir, for being with us, and the viewers, a short break, and we'll be back with our second segment for today, so stay tuned.